morning. We have got a lot to talk about this week on both sides of the aisle. My question this morning, how long are we can continue to pretend that Joe Biden is doing okay? The president suffers a truly embarrassing fall last week, something I think we all knew was bound to happen at some point, and very little time was devoted to what's going on with the president on the Sunday shows yesterday. I was watching. We were watching. Very little analysis. For a reaction on this, let's welcome in commentary editor for the Washington Times, Kelly Sadler, and political analyst and best-selling author, Mark Halperin. Great to have you guys back this morning. Good to see you. Missed you. Wasn't with you on Friday, but great to be back with you this morning. Kelly, you remember Trump going down that ramp, that slippery ramp? He had a new pair of loafers on, and he said he was tiptoeing down the ramp. And the media had doctors on and analysts, trying to get through what was going on with our then 74-year-old president at that time, or the attention that Gerald Ford got when he fell down the stairs at Air Force One on Air Force One. Gerald Ford played professional D1, not professional, but D1 college football. Right? He was 64 years old at the time when that happened, or 62. Young, healthy guy. Also, the big difference is nobody is questioning their mental acuity, their cognitive abilities. Yeah. That's the big difference with Joe Biden. Yesterday, nothing, crickets. What'd you make of that?
Well, it's the bias in the media, right? I mean, I was there for Donald Trump. It wasn't too long ago. We can remember the media criticizing him picking up a glass of water and being shaky. And then all of the analysis the next morning on Morning Joe on how he's not well. I recall, members of Congress, Nancy Pelosi, wanting to invoke the 25th Amendment and trying to rally cabinet members to say that he wasn't doing well. I mean, even the New York Times this weekend did a piece on Joe Biden's health and his mental acuity, and they led with Joe Biden being able to pick up a phone call at 3 a.m. and negotiate deals and how great that was, and then had an entire paragraph hitting Donald Trump for eating Big Macs and going to McDonald's and weighing 244 pounds, whereas Joe Biden has a healthy diet and gets on his Peloton bike every single day. This is media bias in action. They're trying to cover up for Joe Biden in what voters overwhelmingly see as a major concern for him running in 2024, and that is his age and his declining mental acuity.
Yeah, his viability, Kelly, viability to be a contender for the biggest job in the land.
Yeah, Mark, that article also says that he's trim and fit, as Kelly mentioned, and that he has, quote, striking stamina. So today, if you look at his schedule, Mark, he's getting his briefing at 10, and then he has a meeting, I think, at 4 p.m. That doesn't seem like he's doing a lot, and I think he's hosting the Kansas City Chiefs. That's his late afternoon meeting. If you look at what is entailed in being a president, you look at just the campaign trail. He has no rallies scheduled yet.
Well, first of all, Rob, welcome back. There are those who say you take more days off than Jimmy Kimmel, but I say ignore the haters.
Hold on. One of the producers was just talking to me as you said that.
I missed part of it.
7 seconds left. Okay, say it again, Mark. Sorry. Go ahead.
I said there are those who say you take more days off than Jimmy Kimmel, but I say ignore the haters.
That's what I say too, Mark. All right. I say a couple days every 4 or 5 months is okay.
The New York Times story, you guys have picked at some of the flaws in it. It didn't talk about the fact that he addressed a congresswoman who had passed away at a public event. Right. He's never been asked about it. He's never been asked about it. I mean, there's just so much here that needs to have a public debate. And Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton have both said, yes, this is a legit issue. But the press needs to treat it as a legit issue, not write a piece that was, at least 50% the spin of the Biden supporters.
Yeah, I just don't understand. If Joe Biden were a private citizen, if he was your 81-year-old, soon to be 81-year-old grandfather, you wouldn't let him. You'd take away his keys. You wouldn't let him drive. That fall, they blamed it on. Look, I had 2 grandparents that had dementia and Alzheimer's, and when Joe Biden was blaming it on this sandbag that never really materialized on stage last week, it reminded me of dealing with my own grandparents when something would happen. And it's so sad to see, but we're talking about the leader of the free world here. He's got a big job. This is important stuff. So we keep talking about the Republican primary field, and are they going to debate? Look, the Republican field is going to work itself out. We're talking about a really strong field, group of people that are running for president. Jack Dorsey, former CEO of Twitter, put this out after the fall. He said there should be primary debates given RFK Jr.'s numbers. RFK Jr., I say, is not a really viable candidate. We're not talking about a tremendous candidate here, but he's polling at 20% against Joe Biden. And then he tweets out over the weekend about RFK Jr. Possibly beating Donald Trump if he were the nominee. Jack Dorsey tweets out again, he can and he will. Look, they don't want Joe Biden, Kelly, debating because they know he's not up to doing it. Axios had a report over the weekend that Joe Biden's day starts at 10 a.m., ends at 4 p.m., and he doesn't do anything over the weekends because he's either at Camp David or now he's in Delaware at the beach.
Yeah, no, I mean, it takes half of his time in office has been spent on vacation as well. So, I mean, even the New York Times admitted that he doesn't really start his day until noon and then ends it at 4 and doesn't do any evening events like Barack Obama, and he doesn't take any press interviews. He hasn't done an interview with a major print newspaper throughout his entirety of his campaign, and they don't want him to have this exposure, to see him fall. I mean, it's very scary when anyone over the age of 80 falls, and that was a huge fall. Did he injure himself? The White House isn't putting out any medical records. They're doing the bare minimum of what they. Trump had to take an IQ test, or to prove to America that he was fit for the presidency. But there are no calls or demands from the press for the same with Joe Biden.
Yeah, not an IQ test, like a cognitive exam.
Cognitive exam.
Yeah.
A cognitive exam.
Right.
But I mean, that's why RFK is doing so well, because Democratic voters see age as a concern with Joe Biden. They're concerned that he might not make it to 2024 to actually run, and then they will be stuck with Kamala Harris. So a debate stage when you have 1 in 5 Democratic voters saying that they are seriously considering RFK, and he's going to be on Twitter Spaces today, and he's going out on the campaign trail for the first time this week, I expect his numbers to climb, and there'd be more clamoring within the Democratic Party to have an open debate with Joe Biden.
Yeah, Joe Biden is so bad, though, and so inept that we are talking about RFK Jr. like he's JFK, all right, which he is definitely not. Mark, final thought, about 15 seconds.
He can become the nominee if he accumulates delegates, and he's the only one besides Joe Biden who does, and then Joe Biden, for whatever reason, isn't able to go forward. Let's see people take the nomination away from RFK.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, there's still time left for Joe Biden to leave with dignity, okay? But that opens the door to Kamala Harris, who is not likable and not electable. So why not give other possible candidates, Gretchen Whitmer, Gavin Newsom, Hillary Clinton, whoever the Democrats want to run, time to build up an actual campaign? Because if this happens again, imagine if Joe Biden takes a tumble and injures himself, say October 2024. This is going to look a lot different, okay? Because that could then swing the election, the October surprise. That could be the October surprise. Joe Biden continues to get worse and worse and worse. It's not going to get better. All right.
That's for sure.
We'll pick this back up top of the hour. Looking forward to that.